My name is Donald. I am 56 years old. This my first time trying to explain my life. I am married to Lauren, 45, Y old, and we have a daughter, 13-year-old. This is something that happened a few months ago. My wife and I were visiting Istanbul along with our daughter. We were part of a big group, 3 families, and around 16 people in all. The trip had come to an end, and we were supposed to return together. We all had gathered at the Istanbul airport for our return back to Chicago. It is an 11-hour flight. We all gathered and did account for accounting. Everyone, the flight was delayed by 6 hours since we still had 6 hours till we get our flight. We all went to the lounge and to our surprise it was empty. We were the only people there. Everyone gathered and started chatting, all smiles and stories of Turkey and the good food we had. I went for a smoke and returned after 15 minutes. As I walked close to my wife, I saw a slim figure near her. As I walked closer, my heart started beating faster, not because of the nicotine, but this was something else. The closer I got, the faster it beat. I could almost hear my heart trying to jump out of my chest. My mind went blank and took me back. 20 years back, I was holding her hand. I was right there in the church. She was right beside me. I said I do. And then kissed her. I took her home. We had a life together. Suddenly, I was right back in the lounge. I walked near my wife and told her, I want to get some air, and walked out. I did not look at the woman who was now talking to my wife. As I walked out the floodgates, to my memories opened up. She was right there. She was happy. I was happy. I closed my eyes and I was back in Columbus, Georgia, right beside the Chattahoochee River. We sat there often. Her name is Maria. She is my life. I have always loved her ever since I saw her in college. She was mine. We got married and moved in together. Married life started great. I started working as a journalist and she started as a financial expert. My job required me to travel and travel a lot. I was going places covering stories from war to famine. All this while I always kept in touch with her. Her sparkling eyes made my day. When I was at home, we spent our time making love and enjoying great food she used to cook, and it was delicious. Will you always love me like this? Mariah asked. While looking into my eyes, I stroked her bare back and told her forever and ever. First 2 years of our lives went by, smooth, and it never felt like there will ever be any trouble in paradise. We decided to delay having kids as we needed to make a name in our careers. We wanted to make good money and settle down. The only trouble that we had was that we were not able to spend time with each other. I travelled, and soon Maria's job also required her to travel. The only point of discontent that we had was my mother. She lived alone and often wanted to see me. My wife never liked her. I never asked why. My mother is a very soft and caring person. I tried to keep them separated and keep a balance between them. It was in the month of January that my mother fell ill. I told my wife I'm going to her so that I can care for her. She was not happy as I had just come home from covering a story in Iraq. We had an argument as she wanted me to hire a help for my mother and not go. Personally, I told her that my mother is old and this might be the last time that I see her alive. Maria was unhappy, but I did not bother. On that 3 days later, my mother died in my arms. I was devastated after her burial. I came back home and Maria once again complained about my mother. I was shocked and could not understand what she was trying to say. She put us in so much trouble. She should have been in the hospital. Right from the start, I was silent and was still trying to understand what will Maria give from demeaning a dead person. I shot back, she is dead. She will not come back and respond. So zip it, Maria got angry, and that week we did not speak to each other. I broke the ice by taking her out for dinner that night. We made wild love the next week. I went out to Afghanistan, covering the historic Silk Road. Maria, meanwhile, was getting her promotions and growing her salary. I returned 2 weeks later, and this would be the time that went to Afghanistan. I reached home, and Maria, like always, greeted me with a big hug and a sloppy kiss at the dinner. I saw her a bit tensed. We need to have some changes in our lives, she spoke. What changes do you want? I asked you being away from home for long durations is not helping me. There are days that I long for you and I come home to an empty bed. I don't want to cheat on you, so either find a job that keeps you near me or find me a job so that I can travel with you. I was in a fix, but at the same time, I was happy that she was honest and spoke the truth. I told her that I will find another job. The topic was over, and the next morning I resigned from my job and started looking for a near-to-home job. I soon found one at the local TV channel. It did not pay as much as my previous job, but kept me near Maria. Your salary is down by 30%. Are you kidding me? She was angry when I told her about my job. I tried to explain that this would be a downside for a stationary job. Women, no matter how educated and intelligent they are, at times do not want to acknowledge facts and still want things to go their way. It would not be possible to get a stationary job and still get a hike unless you change your profession. She was upset that I now bring less to the home and her lifestyle will be impacted. Somehow we went on with that. Over the next 3 months, things started to go downhill. We were talking less, and at nights we rarely getting any action. Her demeanour had changed from loving wife to nagging. She could find faults and everything, and there was not a single day that I would go to bed not angry. It got so bad that one night she asked me to stop breathing. As my breathing is disturbing her sleep a few days later, I could not find my phone. So, picked up my wife's phone to call my number. I found her phone locked. It was something new. I did not have any lock on my phone. And as far as I remember, she never had any lock on her. Why was there a lock? Is she hiding something? It was a Thursday night. She came back after a late-night party with her office girls. I heard the doorbell and opened the door. She stood there in a black dress, her hair all disturbed, no lipstick. "What happened to you?" I asked and held her. I danced a bit too much and now I am tired. I guided her to her bedroom. She removed her dress to change in her usual nightdress. That was a big mistake. She had no panties and I could see bruise on her left thigh. She never goes out without her panties. Did she go commando today or did she lose them somewhere that night? I could not sleep and just lay there being a journalist. By nature, I wanted to know the truth. I know a lot of people who can help me find it out, but I knew my and needed no help. 3 weeks later, I was outside the Motel 6 at Victory Drive. It was 2:30 p.m. and I tracked Maria's car to this motel. I walked towards room number 12, opened the lock, and saw the monitor right across the door. In the other room was my beloved wife. There she was on all fours and her blonde. Lover in action, her blonde lover Steve Bowman, my dear enemy from our college, always had hots for Maria, and once even took her out for a date before Maria started dating me. To me good. Maria screamed in ecstasy, Steve. Obliged by now my tears no longer flowed. I was dead inside my heart. HH'd 3 weeks of investigation and running around. Maria did yield results that I never wanted. I wanted to break open the door and do something very stupid, but I had promised the motel manager that I will refrain from violence. He was paying back for an old favour and put up a single condition: no violence and no property damage. He agreed and personally helped me put the recording devices in the room. But violence was never off the table outside the motel. I smiled and walked out of the motel, got in my car and parked right behind the only Mustang that was parked in the parking. It belonged to Steve. I took out my dear old ice pick and decorated all 4 tires. I waited. After 1 hour, they came out, Steve holding Maria by her bare waist. I took that on camera. I put my camera back and came out of my truck. I walked towards them and stood right in front of them. Maria was silent, looked like she saw a ghost. Steve had a sinister grin on his face, symbol of taking another man's wife. He still held her by the waist. Maria was meekly trying to remove his hand. "Hey, Don." She smiled. "What are you doing here?" I stared back at her. She went silent. She tried again. I can explain. It's not what you think I am not thinking. Just observing my eyes pointed at Steve's hand on her waist. I guess he has taken away my wife. I smiled. No, it's not that we just had a meeting here. She spoke. Meeting involved getting on all fours and getting drilled from behind. Did he do you good? I asked. She gasped as just a few minutes ago she had uttered the same words. All your action is on video and we be going to your office. And I will make sure it goes to all our friends and family, and yes, it will be going to Linda and her dad. Steve screamed, leave Linda out of this. Yes, she has no business in this. Maria added her husband is screwing my wife. So yes, we have a lot of business, unfinished ones to be precise. I smiled and added, Linda has already seen your action as it happened and is just waiting for the copy of the video so that she can drag your sorry ass in the court for a divorce. If I were you, I would prepare myself to say goodbye to dear old Mustang, as it will be sold out to pay for the settlement. He was furious now and lunged at me. Big mistake. Years have travelled to places like Iraq. Afghanistan made me a tough man. I had been among warriors, fighters, and people who were trained to kill. Did they teach me a few tricks? He threw a right hand, and I blocked it, ducked forward, and landed my left on his chin. He dropped like a bag of potatoes. He got up, wobbled a few steps towards me, only to get an uppercut on the chin. He did not get up. He lay there, out cold. Maria stood there, horrified. I looked at her and told her to get in the truck. She got in the truck, and we drove off. We did not reach home. We went straight to my lawyer. Maria tried to ask, but I just held up my hand. We walked in the office and were asked to move to the large conference room. We both sat in the opposite sides of the table. The silence was dreadful. Soon Ron Freeman, my lawyer, walked in the room, handed an envelope to Maria. You have been served. Now, let me explain the terms we have filed for divorce based on IR reconcilable differences. You guys hold no property, there's nothing to discuss there. His mother's house is yet to be legally transferred in his name, so you will not claim that he will give you half of the money from your joint account. As we speak, the account has exactly half the money it had in the morning, so you may withdraw it since you earn more than him. There is no alimony, there is nothing else. For my end, Ron left the room. Maria held the envelope and looked at me. I finally spoke in case you want to contest it. I will change the reason for the divorce under adultery and make sure that every soul that knows your name will know of your cheating exploits. Every recording I have will be shared on all social media platforms. I will send this to your office and make sure that your cheating ass is fired and you get no recommendation anywhere. You run away to a different city, I will follow you, and make sure that rest of your life is spinned in fear of your name being tarnished. I hope I am clear, she nodded. I got up and walked out. She stood up and spoke. Don't you want to know why I did it? You wanted a lifestyle that I cannot provide. You wanted to fly high but wanted someone at home. When you land back, you wanted happiness, but we not willing to pay the price for it fast. Cars, big fancy hotels, and good food. Your blondie lover gave you everything that I could not. You think that, right, isn't it? I'm not sure if you will understand it or not, but he was just paying for his fun time. He was already married and was looking for a cheap source of entertainment. It meant how long would that have lasted? A few months. Then what would you have gone out hunting for another lover? Then another. Your happiness is just a state of mind. You can be happy with less, or you can be sad with a lot. Today you stand here with an envelope in your hand and nothing else. Have a nice day. Maria, I left. I saw her in the court a few months later. Never spoke to her, never saw her eyes. Just the court's orders, divorce granted. Steve never filed for any complaint against me. Even if he had filed for it, he would have lost. There were cameras in the parking, and he would have come out as the aggressor. I did send Linda the videos and all the evidence of Steve's adultery. She did not waste time with him, threw him out of the house, and divorced him. I did hear a rumor that he was beaten up by Linda's brothers, and he spent a few days with some broken bones. He was divorced and even had lost his job. Linda's father was a connected. Man Steve did sell his Mustang to pay for his settlement. I never told this to anyone, but Linda's father wanted to punish Maria as well. Linda stopped them, I left my job, and soon enough I was hired back in my old job, but in a different city life went on. Here I am today at Istanbul airport, chief journalist for a big magazine, loads of money, a great faithful wife and an amazing daughter. I walked back in the lounge. My wife was still talking to her hours past. I stayed away from my wife. She was constantly talking to Maria and stealing glances at me. I was worried I never hid my past for my wife, but I don't know what Maria will plan in her mind. A few hours later, I checked with the airport officials, and they confirmed the departure time. We got in the boarding queue, and after some grueling minutes, I was finally in the flight, and sitting right beside my wife, she was smiling, and her smile was a lot different than usual. I asked her what was the discussion with that lady. "Oh, that lady, your ex-wife, Maria. I was saying thanks." I gave a puzzled look. "Thanks?" I asked if she had not screwed up. "How would I have got you?" She smiled. "Did she tell you that I asked?" "No, she never talked about you. I read the court's orders and your investigative material. They were in the attic." "What were you two talking about?" "Nothing. I was just listening how she missed her ex-husband and how she would trade everything to get a life like mine." I smiled and closed my eyes and pushed back into my chair.